There's a moment in every financial revolution when disbelief turns into regret. For XRP, that moment is getting closer than most people think. You'll hear the same lines everywhere. It's just a bank token. The case ruined it. It's too slow, too centralized. But history doesn't reward the loudest critics. It rewards the few who see value before the crowd opens its eyes. And when it comes to XRP, the crowd is still asleep. Welcome back to Crypto Equation, where we separate emotion from evidence and show you what's really happening beneath the noise. Because while most traders scroll through memes and charts, the real story is unfolding quietly inside the global financial system. And that's where 3,000 XRP could one day feel like a decision that changed everything. For years, Ripple has been called many things: controversial, overhyped, even dead. But while people argued on Twitter, the company kept building. It survived lawsuits, bear markets, and endless skepticism. It didn't vanish. It evolved. Ripple's on-demand liquidity network now operates in more than 70 countries, connecting hundreds of institutions and moving real money every single day. These aren't headlines. They're audited facts hiding in plain sight. The truth is, the groundwork for a total financial upgrade is already in place. And when that switch flips, the value of XRP won't rise because of hype. It'll rise because the world will suddenly need it. When that happens, 3,000 coins won't feel like speculation. They'll feel like foresight. People forget how fast technology adoption happens. The internet was a niche in 1995. Smartphones were luxury toys in 2008. Bitcoin was a joke in 2011. Each revolution followed the same curve. First ridicule, then resistance, then inevitability. XRP is walking that same path right now. The difference is scale, because this isn't about communication or entertainment. It's about money itself, and money moves the world. The reason you'll regret not owning 3,000 XRP isn't that it will suddenly turn you into a millionaire overnight. It's that it represents ownership in the infrastructure of the new financial era. Ripple isn't trying to be another crypto project. It's replacing the rails that move trillions of dollars every day. The old system, SWIFT, correspondent banks, multi-day settlements, is collapsing under its own weight. Fees, delays, and manual approvals don't fit in a digital economy. The world needs instant, programmable liquidity, and Ripple built it 10 years early. That's the part most people miss. They think adoption means hype announcements or viral partnerships. But adoption in finance looks boring. Compliance documents, ISO 2022 certification, silent integrations between banks. Ripple has spent a decade doing the slow, painful work no other crypto company wanted to do. That's why when global payment rails fully migrate to digital messaging, XRP will already be native to the system. The market won't have time to react, it will have to reprice. The math behind it is simple. Global cross-border transactions exceed $150 trillion per year. If even 1% of that volume used XRP for settlement, the liquidity required would run into the trillions. Markets can't ignore that demand. Price must rise to support it. That's not hopium, it's arithmetic. And it's exactly what happens when utility replaces speculation. Now imagine that system in full operation. Central bank digital currencies in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East connected through Ripple's rails. Tokenized assets, real estate, treasuries, carbon credits, flowing between blockchains. Banks using XRP as neutral bridge liquidity. Every time value crosses borders, a small amount of XRP moves with it. Billions of transactions adding up day after day until the asset most people ignored becomes indispensable. That's the future insiders are already preparing for, but the public still thinks XRP is stuck in 2018. That's why conviction matters. Most holders won't make it through the waiting phase. They'll get impatient, sell early, and watch the system they doubted go live without them. Because conviction isn't free. It costs time, patience, and belief in something bigger than price action. 3,000 XRP isn't a magic number. It's a symbol of foresight. It's enough to matter when the network scales, but small enough that almost anyone could have taken the position. And that's what makes future regret sting the most. It was always possible, just not obvious enough. Today, those coins might cost less than a weekend trip. In 5 years, they could represent entry into the first truly borderless liquidity system in history. The difference is understanding, not luck. Because when regulation clears, corridors expand, and liquidity deepens, the repricing won't ask for permission. It will simply adjust to the new reality. Ripple's legal clarity is the silent fuse. Once a single major government openly acknowledges XRP as a bridge asset for regulated transactions, every competing institution will move to stay relevant. Banks don't chase hype, they chase compliance. And Ripple built compliance before anyone else even cared. That's why the lawsuit was never a death sentence. It was validation. It forced Ripple to prove its model in court. Now that precedent protects it. While other tokens still wonder how they'll fit into regulation, XRP already fits. The moment global policy aligns, it will be the first mover through the gate. That's what the market still hasn't priced in. Meanwhile, Ripple keeps expanding quietly. Their acquisition of Medico gave them institutional custody over tokenized assets. Their partnerships with central banks link CBDCs directly into the XRP ledger. Their pilot programs with remittance giants prove real-world throughput. Every one of these developments increases utility, and every increase in utility tightens supply. You can feel the tension building, like a spring wound tighter each quarter. Volume is rising, corridors are multiplying, and public awareness remains minimal. That's the perfect setup for what comes next. The moment when fundamentals overwhelm narrative and price corrects to function. The coming repricing won't feel like a pump, it'll feel like discovery. Liquidity will simply need XRP, and the market will respond mechanically. Overnight, what seemed too good to be true will become too obvious to ignore, and that's when regret begins, for those who hesitated, doubted, or laughed it off. Because financial revolutions don't reward the loud, they reward the prepared. So what should investors really understand right now? That the opportunity isn't about guessing numbers or timing the next spike, it's about recognizing inevitability. Ripple's network is live, its compliance is secured, and its purpose is clear. The bridge asset of the next global standard already exists. The only variable left is time. The people who make life-changing decisions aren't the ones chasing headlines. They're the ones studying systems. They saw Visa before payments went digital. They saw Amazon before e-commerce ruled the world. And today they see Ripple before cross-border value goes fully tokenized. 3,000 XRP isn't a gamble. It's a position in inevitability, but inevitability doesn't wait forever. The corridors are opening faster each year. ISO 20022 is fully operational. The narrative is shifting from if to when, and once the world sees proof in daily settlement volumes, the revaluation will be instant. That's why the time to understand it is now, because when XRP's true purpose becomes visible, there will be two kinds of people, those who prepared early and those who wish they had. When people talk about missing Bitcoin at $100, they always say the same thing: I didn't understand what I was looking at. The same thing will be said about XRP. Because what most people don't see is that this moment feels quiet because it's foundational. The system is building its pipes before turning on the water. Once liquidity starts flowing, it's too late to get the early price. The irony is that the hardest part is right now: the waiting, the doubt, the noise. Everyone wants confirmation before conviction. But that's not how wealth is built. By the time confirmation arrives, the opportunity is gone. Look at history. The investors who waited for proof always arrived at the top. Those who believed in logic and fundamentals entered at the bottom. Ripple's fundamentals are undeniable. They're solving $1 trillion inefficiency in global finance. They have partners across banking, fintech, and government sectors. They're ISO 20022 ready, legally recognized, and expanding into tokenization and custody. Those aren't buzzwords, they're infrastructure. And infrastructure is what the next generation of wealth is built on. 3,000 XRP isn't about a number, it's about participation. It's being connected to a system that will eventually process a significant share of the world's liquidity. When that system is fully operational, price discovery becomes math, not emotion. Demand for settlement liquidity meets finite supply, and equilibrium shifts permanently. That's why the smartest investors focus on positioning, not timing. They don't need to predict the exact day the switch flips. They just need to be ready before it does. Because markets move first, headlines follow later. The next few years will look chaotic from the outside. Governments will roll out digital currencies. Banks will upgrade payment infrastructure. Traditional markets will tokenize assets faster than anyone expects. To most people, it'll feel random, but underneath it all, the same bridge asset will quietly connect every part of it. That bridge is XRP. And here's the most fascinating part. When the system finally normalizes, no one will talk about using XRP. They'll just talk about faster, cheaper payments. The technology will disappear into the background the way the internet did. Nobody says, I'm using TCP/IP. They just browse. That's how you'll know the revolution is complete. And when that day comes, holders won't be speculators anymore. They'll be early owners of digital infrastructure. The market doesn't see it yet because it's not supposed to. Disbelief is a protective barrier that keeps the impatient out. It filters the crowd so only those with vision remain. That's how asymmetric opportunities stay asymmetric until the very end. People love to say, if it was that big, everyone would know. But that's not how transformation works. Everyone laughed at Amazon when it was just selling books. Everyone dismissed Apple when it was just a phone. Everyone ignores Ripple because it's just that banking coin. And yet each of those stories ends the same way, with regret from those who couldn't see the structure forming under their feet. Right now, 3,000 XRP looks like a small bet. But history says that small bets on inevitable systems become the most impactful decisions of a lifetime, because the future rewards foresight far more than perfection. The turning point could come quietly. An IMF announcement, a central bank corridor activation, a major clearinghouse adopting RippleNet. It won't feel dramatic until after it happens. Price will move, news will scramble to explain it, and those already positioned will simply nod. They won't be surprised, they'll be prepared. And that's the entire lesson of XRP. Preparation beats prediction. The utility era doesn't reward traders who time candles, it rewards believers who understand plumbing. Those who know what they own never need to panic. They understand that short-term noise is just the sound of long-term structure settling into place. Most people will realize too late that 3,000 XRP was never about speculation. It was about front-row access to the next version of money, a digital bridge that connects every currency, every bank, every tokenized asset on Earth. And that's not something you trade in and out of. That's something you hold until the system can't run without it. One day, maybe 5 or 10 years from now, XRP will be fully normalized. It'll sit quietly inside the plumbing of global finance, invisible but essential. And at that moment, you'll hear new investors say, if only I'd bought when it was still quiet. The regret will be real, not because they missed a quick profit, but because they missed being early to something permanent. So when you hear the noise, remember this. Conviction feels lonely, right up until it doesn't. The world always mocks what it doesn't yet understand. Then suddenly, it calls it obvious. The choice is simple. Wait for validation and join the crowd later, or recognize the pattern now and take your seat early. Either way, the system is coming. The rails are already in place. The liquidity corridors are forming. The standards are active. The countdown isn't in months or years, it's in integrations and partnerships. Each day, another institution connects to RippleNet. Each corridor adds demand. Each regulatory step brings legitimacy. And every one of those steps pushes the market closer to repricing. Not hype-driven repricing, functional repricing. The kind that sticks. The truth is, you don't need to convince anyone else. The market will do that for you. All you need is understanding, patience, and a willingness to hold through the noise. Because when the global financial architecture finally completes its upgrade, owning 3,000 XRP won't feel speculative. It'll feel visionary. And the people who laughed will tell their own stories about how they almost bought some back when it was cheap. They'll say they didn't understand it, or they were waiting for clarity, or they thought it was too risky. But what they'll really mean is they couldn't see inevitability until it was already priced in. Don't be one of them, because every financial era has its moment of disbelief, and this is ours. You'll regret not owning 3,000 XRP sooner than you think, because by the time the world realizes what it's worth, you'll either be watching the revolution or you'll already be part of it. This is Crypto Equation, reminding you that knowledge is opportunity, patience is profit, and conviction is freedom. I'll see you in the next one.